Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome back to another edition of Uncover California. I'm Lori Mills. As General Flynn has always said, local action creates national impact. Well, today I want to talk about showing up against the Soros-funded groups, Indivisible and La Defensa. Last week, we had so many people show up at Simi Valley, and here's a couple clips for you. The Glass House Farm raid, for instance, there was a warrant for drug trafficking across state lines. That's why it was raided. And with that, 14 trafficked children were found, along with a child molester who had been deported twice. If you want to hold up their mugshots, please feel free. My biggest concern, and I've been working on it for 4 years, are trafficked children. My journey started with Oscar Blue Ramirez, who lives below the border in Tijuana, who's traveled the Darien Gap 4 times. These people want to talk about climate change. That once pristine jungle is now littered with dead migrant bodies, and the animals can't even drink in the rivers anymore. Illegal immigration is not compassionate. I've also been working with DHS whistleblower Aaron Stevenson, who discovered 350,000 children went missing from the Pomona Fairplex. I've also been working with Tara Lee Rodas, HHS whistleblower, who also was working at the Pomona Fairplex. 350,000 children are missing, and 14 were found in Camarillo.
So what is driving the anti-ICE law enforcement protests in our communities? If you're paying attention to patterns, there are many parallels to the BLM movement of 2020. Well-organized, well-funded, strategic attacks, and violent protests against the people that keep us safe. Parallels, especially considering the funding mechanisms, with groups like George Soros' Open Societies Foundation giving tens of millions of dollars to Chirla and the Indivisibles. There's a well-established, easily traceable donor grant feedback loop in place that sustains and amplifies their momentum.
Well, we're not stopping there. Tonight, we're going to enter the belly of the beast, Oxnard. People need to remember a 13-year-old boy was found raped and murdered in Oxnard by an illegal immigrant who posed as a soccer coach, and he had multiple victims. And yet this city has been just taken over by the woke and have created these sanctuary policies. And if you did see the documentary I did, you know the Biden administration lost 300,000 children into our nation, and 14 of these trafficked children were found in Camarillo, in the farms, which borders Oxnard. So this is a call to action for all of you. Make sure you show up. Nobody's coming to save you but you. It's very important that you understand a lie can't stand in the light of truth. The left pushes for all these policies because they want a narrative for the next election. They don't care about immigrants. They don't care about what I would call their useful idiots. The hires up in these organizations are paid grant money, and it's all easily traceable. And then they excite the public, lie to them, get them upset, and then let them do the dirty work. What these activists don't understand is they're not playing with California state law anymore. They're playing with federal law, which could land them 5 to 20 years in prison. Well, I don't want that to happen for anybody, but I do want to make sure that people understand Biden's migrants owe the cartels up to $18,000, which means we literally have human slavery in our county. So you guys, do your due diligence, show up. Nobody's going to do this for you. If you want this county back and you don't want it to become Los Angeles, you just better get involved. That's all I ask of you. Get involved. So that's my rant for today. On today's episode, we've got congressional candidate Bob Smith, Navy veteran, and he's going to tell us why he's running for office in Santa Barbara County. We also have one of my dear friends who I ran with when I ran for the state assembly, Kristina Irwin. Let's talk about the fires for a minute. In 2022, when I ran for the state assembly, I ran on fire prevention. Where's the water? Why aren't we doing controlled burns? And as a matter of fact, got a little clip of that. We do need to deal with the water crisis. All the rivers, we can't worry about the Delta smelt anymore. We need to fill our reservoirs and provide water for our communities. It can be done. They have ignored it. Fire danger. Jackie banned weed whackers and lawnmowers. How we do fire clearance is beyond me. I talked to the mayor of Malibu. I don't know if you're aware, but Topanga hasn't burnt in 30 years. If that goes up, Malibu's gone. We need to put goats in our hills again. We need to do controlled burns again, like when I was a kid. And we need to deal with the issue. Kristina's joining us today, and we are going to talk all about the race and how the Palisades and Malibu and those districts deserve so much more than what they're getting. Time to stop voting for the D guys and start voting for your own best interest. So everybody buckle up, stay tuned, and we will be right back. You guys, I am so honored to have a new sponsor on Uncover California, General Michael Flynn. You guys, I need you to go buy his new books, The Role of the Church, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. And on the General Flynn store, you can find all sorts of great things to get you prepared to be equipped with truth and move forward. Fight, fight, fight. If you guys could support the show, use generalflynn.com/REF/Lori Mills, and you'll help uncover California while equipping yourself for the battle ahead. Local politics has national impact. Go General. Welcome back. Our first guest on today's show is a Navy veteran who served this country for decades, and now he wants to jump into the swamp in D.C. to defend your rights and speak truth, because the representation Santa Barbara has, I'm sorry, it falls short of abysmal. Bob Smith, welcome to Uncover California.
Hi, Lori. Happy to be here.
Tell everybody about your background. You're a Navy veteran. Tell everybody about your service in our military.
Yeah, so let me start off by my early background here. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. My dad was actually a convicted felon, went away to prison. I wound up moving in with my grandmother, who was a janitor at a hospital. So I grew up in a bad neighborhood, crime, drugs, a bunch of kids on the streets, basically. You know, my grandma didn't have a whole lot, being a janitor at a hospital. So I've lived that life. I wound up having to drop out of high school because of it. I'm in 10th grade. So to help support myself. And before I dropped out, I was a good student. I was a good athlete. It just was, hey, everything that I've been told in my life so far is kind of BS because everything's not going so well. And so I dropped out and I started working. I eventually was working for a construction company, and the owner of that construction company didn't like to drive home in the Jersey traffic on Fridays. So he'd have me drive him home. He was an older guy. He served during World War II. He would always tell me, hey, I always thought back in the day in World War II that the Navy was always the smartest people. You should go do something with your life. You're too smart for this. And he would tell me that every Friday. And so I would just say, okay, Don, whatever, and drop him off. And it eventually got to a point where, okay, fine, I'm going to go down and talk to a recruiter. And so I did. They said, we can't take any more of you this fiscal year until you actually have a high school diploma. And so I went to a night school for a couple months, got a high school diploma. And then a couple of days later, I was gone and off to the Navy. Now, the Navy was pretty easy for me. Having the background that I had, I thought everything was easy. I fit round hole in a round, round peg in a round hole. I fit perfectly in that world. I probably needed some of the structure in my life and the purpose and mission. Kids growing up in bad neighborhoods and bad environments don't really have a purpose and a structure. Things like college and all these things that normal people think of, like my kids that have a much more privileged life than I did. They don't think about these things. You just think about getting through the next day, right? That gave me all the structure that I needed. I did well. I served until I was an E6 rank, so a first class petty officer in the Navy. I worked on something called the Aegis weapon system as a technician and an operator. I got selected for a program after I did a deployment to Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom for the beginning of it. I got selected for a program called Seaman to Admiral, sends you to any college of your choice. You graduate with a degree of your choice, and then you commission as an officer. I did that. I went to Old Dominion University in Virginia. I got a general engineering degree, which was about 75% electrical, 25% mechanical. So today it'd probably be called systems engineering. And then I commissioned as an ensign with a bachelor's degree in general engineering, went to ships in San Diego, was serving on those ships down there. I was now an officer in charge of the same people that I used to be as an enlisted, which was pretty unique. Working on the same weapon system and all that stuff. A guy that was on the ship with, he took me home for Thanksgiving here to Carpinteria. in 2007. And I happened to meet his cousin, who is my wife. And so I came home for Thanksgiving in 2007 and I've never left, which is why I'm here. Handful of tours as an officer, operational. Once I finished that, I got selected for another thing called the Engineering Duty Officer Program. You go into the Navy's Corps of Acquisition, basically, in engineering, that you have to have a master's degree. So I went to Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, got my systems engineering master's degree. Then I served 2 tours at Naval Base Ventura County at NSWC Port Hueneme. So I served back there both as a lieutenant and a commander. I'm in charge of a department there. And I served 3 tours in Washington, D.C. on major defense acquisition programs. Those are big money, big dollar, billion-dollar programs. So although this is my first time running for office because I just retired in September, I am a professional at the process in Washington, D.C. from the government's end. So I've seen the swamp from the other side, which is why I do not like career politicians. I do not like the process. For me, going to DC, it's more of, I want to go there and make changes. I want to go there and be a force for good in Washington, DC. And I know that, that's a hard task there. But the other thing is, your wife gets 51% of the vote when you retire and you get out of the service. And that's why we stayed here. We've had our house here since 2010 in Santa Barbara in Carpinteria. Obviously, we all know the politics are a problem here. The economy is a problem here. The state and all the regulations are a problem here. California is definitely going down the drain. We all see that. You can't complain about it if you're not willing to carry a couple buckets of water, right? So
100%. Now, I want to thank you for your service. My son is a Marine, so I have high respect for what you have done, and I can't agree with you more that the DC swamp is a mess. Most people climb a ladder till they get to that position, and they're not serving the people; they're serving their own interests. Yep. So, what was it that happened that made you say, hey, I'm ready to run for Congress, which is, it's a big step.
Yeah, it is. You can't complain unless you're willing to carry a couple buckets of water. I want to show my son. So I have a 22-year-old who's in college. She got to see a lot of my Navy career. My 11-year-old didn't get to see a whole lot of things. I was gone a lot. My last 3 years in the Navy, I was on over 900 days of travel with that. So I delivered the newest ballistic missile defense program in the Navy, just a bunch of time away from home. So you didn't get to see a lot of what I was doing, but you have to show your kids that you're willing to fight for change. You're willing to work for it. You're willing to do all those things. And so for me, and people have asked me this, hey, why not board of supervisors and why not city council or these other things? I really feel like my strength is in the federal side. And so that's really where I have expertise at. And so if I'm going to make a change and I'm going to use the expertise that I've gained in my almost 3 decades of service, why would I not do that at the federal level still? That's really where I think I belong. And so to me, it's let's make a change for our community. Let's do good. I think you can look around the world and see there's geopolitical issues everywhere that need smart, intelligent people in office. I don't think we have smart, intelligent people in our Congress. I think we have TikTok hype people basically for the bases of either side. And so, to me, it's all about just making a change, going in there and making a change.
So if you were to win, what committees would you want to serve on?
House Armed Services would obviously be one that's right in my wheelhouse, right? So that would be one. Salud Carbajal is on House Armed Services. He's an invisible person on House Armed Services. I can tell you that from having dealt with that committee and looked at it. House Appropriations Committee for Defense is the big one for that. Obviously, as a junior congressman, you're probably not getting on that appropriation, one of the big ones right away. So I would see that House Armed Services would be the one that I'd be looking for.
Well, that's great. Well, Salud Carbajal, since you brought him up, he just seems more like an activist to me. We recently had raids in Carpinteria and Camarillo where Salud Carbajal actually went and was part of the riot in violation of federal law, getting in the way of a warranted federal investigation where they found child molesters, rapists, and 14 trafficked children. What is your take on the Glass House Farms and everything that we have been seeing with the left and their Soros-funded groups, Indivisible and La Defensa, trying to create a narrative for political gain?
Yeah, so let's kind of start at the beginning there, right? So one of those farms is just a couple blocks from my house right here. Obviously, a lot of campaign donations went into people's campaign accounts, right? From Newsom all the way down to Democrat Party of Santa Barbara and to Salud. And there was a lot of laws that were changed here, especially in Carpinteria, around the cannabis farm. So the cannabis farms surround the high school. They had to move the foot down to, you couldn't be 1,500 feet with drugs between from a high school. They had to change all those laws. A lot of things had to happen that just could not have happened with a lot of political pressure to make them happen. And we all know who those politicians that were here that were involved in that, right? It was the Doss Williams and Salud, and a bunch of people were involved in making all this happen, right? So you start there, and then you get to this point where a raid then happens at this place that they made this happen. I mean, Carpinteria at this point is a marijuana plantation. I mean, my house smells like skunk every morning that I wake up.
And it used to be tulips. It used to be beautiful flowers from the Dutch farmers, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's a complete marijuana plantation here in Carpinteria now. They run down there and they're protesting immediately, and they have no clue about what's actually going on. And so that's the problem, right? There's a Venn diagram where all of these things mix. That yes, there were people that were caught up in there that their only crime was crossing the border illegally, right? There was also murderers and rapists and people with violent crimes that crossed the border again. And there were also trafficked children. So there's a Venn diagram where all three of those circles meet. And unfortunately, if you go between LA and San Francisco, there's absolutely zero investigative journalism. There's absolutely anybody getting real news out, right? So you don't hear anything about any of these things. So try to look at any of one of our papers or our media platforms or anything and find out that 10 of those kids have already been confirmed by the state of California that they were unaccompanied, right? And multiple of those kids were on the Center for Human Trafficking list. Right. So these are one of the things when we talked about with Bianco last night that he talked about and brought up there from the sheriff's perspective. He also brought up that there's all this rhetoric that's happening right now. There is, if your only crime was crossing the border illegally, no one is targeting you right now and setting up investigations for you.
Well, I'm going to stop you, but I'm going to stop you right there. But because of Democrat policy SB 54, the local police cannot work with ICE. They cannot work with the federal government. So therefore, California policy has pushed ICE into the community. And therefore, if you are in violation of 8 U.S. Code 1325, crossing our border illegally, yes, you can get swept up in this. But it's due to California policy that they are at risk. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Absolutely, right? So SB 54 is not only causing that, so it's getting all these people caught up in this net, right, where they're victims of, if crime would not have been happening at Glass House Farms, no person whose only crime was crossing the border illegally would have been swept up 2 weeks ago, right? It's because they were there on an FBI, HSI, long-term investigation on human trafficking across international borders. That's why all that was there. So SB 54 is also creating this world of lack of transparency, right? So every single person on the other side that's complaining about lack of transparency, from the DA, from the public defenders, from the sheriffs, it's all being caused by SB 54. And the only thing that SB 54 is protecting is criminals.
Yes.
It's also not protecting the illegal immigrants. They're
right.
The ones that are being most victimized by these rapists and child molesters and child traffickers and the cartels. They're being most victimized by SB 54.
Well, and understand, Joe Biden, when he took office, entered us into what's called the Global Compact of Migration with the UN. He opened our borders, let 20 million people cross the border from all over the world. I've got passports from people that were on the border from Afghanistan, one guy on the terrorist watch list. Biden's migrants owe the cartels up to $18,000 each, which means these farms and those people that are employing them are basically supporting modern day slavery, because these people aren't getting paid. They're working to pay the cartels. So it's just so backwards, because they lied about the border for 4 years. They didn't say a word. They said the border was secure up until election year, and then they were going to solve the problem they said never existed. So to me, it's just crazy town. And the 101 corridor, and people need to understand, between LA and Santa Barbara County is the largest human trafficking corridor in the world. These kids that could have been sold into the darkest pits of hell. I mean, the ones that were found was labor trafficking. Speaking to DHS whistleblower Aaron Stevenson, HHS whistleblower Tara Rodas, what I can tell you is a lot of these kids are sold for sex, and worse than that, organ harvesting. That is happening. To me, they need to go. And those people that have been here for 20 years, shame on the farmers for not sponsoring them to begin with on a road to getting a visa. It seems to me it works more in the Democrats' best interest to have these people working in the shadows. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's horrible. So, and then you look at progressive platforms used to stand for human rights, or that used to be their pride of everything. And now they're supporting human trafficking. So it's like they're almost regressive at this point. I don't understand how far left it's gone here in California to where you will immediately go down and defend your weed farms and protect child trafficking. And to that extent, every single one of these cities here in the Santa Barbara County, right, have now funded all of these NGOs that are supporting all of this, right? So Carpinteria put money out of their general funds on it. Goleta just did the other night. Santa Barbara did. Santa Barbara County did. And so not only that, but now you're funding all those funds into these NGOs that are protecting this human trafficking and keeping this cycle of corruption going. But then Salud Carbajal went on to and wrote a letter that's in the Independent the other day on the 25th and had 28 politicians on here sign on to that, calling for Sheriff Brown here in Santa Barbara County to stand up to the federal authorities and ICE. At this point, with all of this combined, I don't know how this isn't a violation of 18 U.S.C. Code 1505 and 1515.
Well,
and
it
a violation
is.
of their oath to the Constitution.
It is. But not only that, it puts a bigger target on the migrants because you know what? If you're going to violate sanctuary and do these sanctuary policies, they're coming after you harder. Yeah. They're not going to back off. These paid NGOs want them to. We've traced the money. We know that Arabella LLC, George Soros Open Society Foundation funnels money to Churla and the People's Socialist Liberation Party that then gives grants to Indivisible, 805, and this La Defensa group. This is dark money. And the thing that I think is it's not about the migrants. They could give a crap about the migrants. It's about them having a narrative to run on. And these are the same people that did the Tesla attacks. These are the same people that did defund the police. These are the same people that did BLM riots. They're different outfit, different outrage. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Sorry, I get fired up on this.
I completely agree with you. And in fact, it is so funded that I was in Lompoc last Friday. The Republican tent was just a few tent booths down from the Indivisible booth. And so somebody went over there and signed up on the Indivisible thing, and they get a whole packet. And I mean, they have coloring books for kids. They've got full, merchandise. I mean, they're fully funded, and they give a whole packet. And when you take the packet, it has all the instructions for you to report on federal agents' movements and what the QR code is you sign up to get connected to the link that gets you the app that you sign up for it, and then you submit everything. This is a fully funded operation against the federal government, and our tax dollars are being funneled to it, which is I don't want any of my tax dollars from our general fund in the city here that's already in a deficit, that's not funding our resources, the things that we need, our essential services, going to funding non-essential things, especially working against our federal government in violation of the law.
Well, and I don't understand why, in all honesty, they're not being brought up on RICO charges. This is organized crime.
I think that a DOJ investigation needs to happen here. And I actually think that we should get organized and sending letters to the DOJ to come here and investigate what's going on.
Yeah, I know that Ventura has already been reported for their CARE Act. They were reported to the U.S. Attorney. They were reported to Immigration and ICE. They've been, reported through everywhere. And for the first time, I'm seeing our side activated, where the right is actually showing up to these city council meetings that have been dominated by the left. So we need to see more of that. People need to get involved. They can't expect you to go into Congress and fix all of this. It's up to each and every one of us to get involved.
Yeah. And Lori, when I say all these things, I think I'm a little bit softer on the immigration than many people are, especially on our side. There are some situations that are in the gray area for me, right? So I'll give you one of them, right? I have a real hard time with if somebody was brought across the border when they're 2 years old and they're 18 or 19 years old, and now we're going to deport them. Where are we going to deport them to? They've been through our school system. They've never been to another country. There's something unethical about that to me. So there's a bunch of these gray area things to me where I think that these situations, the gray area situations, need to be worked out. But at that same time, again, this crossing Venn diagram, my 11-year-old should not be living 2 blocks from where there are convicted rapists and child molesters who have already been convicted, due process done, deported out of the country, broke back into the country, are back here now running a child trafficking ring 2 blocks from where my 11-year-old walks out the front door.
And I agree with you in the sense, like, we live in California. We have always had migrants, but I'm going to say the federal government and the state government have failed them because, again, they have not worked on visa processes for these people. They almost need the conflict to run on. So I don't want to hear that they care so much about these people because they've done nothing to protect them. My biggest beef right now are with Biden's migrants. If 20 million people weren't allowed to enter our country illegally, and again, from all over the world, Afghanistan, Iran, all these different countries, have the Democrats lie and say, oh, the border's secure. No, it wasn't. If that never happened, 20 million people, that's more than 42 states. Bigger than the population of those states. If that wouldn't have been allowed, we wouldn't be in the position we are today. And these migrants who have not been defended, have not been protected, who should have been put into visa programs and should have been had their backgrounds vetted. Let's face it, these farms want to pay these people slave wages. They don't want them on the books. I blame our government for that. I've got gardeners, they're fabulous people, wonderful people. I think we need a different program to sponsor law-abiding people that may have been brought here as children, or even those that were here for, and I think it was called the Barrack Act, back in the day for farm workers to cross back and forth to Mexico to work. That was taken away by the California state legislature years ago. So a lot of people got stuck here. Yep. So my biggest beef is not with those that have been here for 20 years. My biggest beef are on Biden's 4-year migrant invasion.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, our intel agencies tell us that right now they think there's more sleeper cells from terrorist organizations in the country than at any time in our history. Mm-hmm. And we know for a fact that things like September 11th, overstayed visas on a lot of them, right? The guy who just did the flamethrower thing in Colorado, overstayed visa, right? So Egyptian. So we know that there are people here that are not good. See, for me, there's a couple of things that have to be fixed. So I do agree, and I want to work on legislation when I get in that fixes the situation in these gray areas. But there's one thing that needs to be fixed that goes with that. We have to fix amnesty. So amnesty is completely broken, right? So amnesty was never created to be, I dip my toe in California or across the border of the United States, and wherever I came from is worse than the United States, so I get to stay here waiting for 5 to 7 years for a court date that never happens. I mean, that's literally 6 billion people on the planet could say, I'd rather be in the United States, right? Asylum was created for people with political persecution, right? Jews in World War II Europe, South Vietnamese when we pulled out and the North Viet Cong took over, right? Our Afghani interpreters, right? It was created for these kind of situations. Amnesty was never created to just say, I'd rather be in America because my country is worse, right? That was not the purpose of it. So we can't put any kind of reform in place, immigration reform, until we actually get amnesty taken care of. It needs to be, my opinion, needs to be with the State Department. People need to apply for it outside of embassies, not judges who are sitting somewhere in the States who have no geopolitical understanding of any situations that are going on politically or internationally, and then making decisions like the Maryland man, right? That he can't go back to his own country, right?
Right. Well, and then something that a lot of people forget is the UN, we had an agreement, and that was the Third Safe Country Act, where let's say you're in Afghanistan. That doesn't mean you go to the other side of the world and enter America. You go to the first safe country from your country. And that was a world agreement, which has been completely ignored. And I have to say, for those people that are all about climate change, the most pristine jungle in our southern hemisphere, the Darien Gap, has been destroyed. The animals can't drink water in the rivers anymore because so many decomposed bodies are there, including tons of trash. These activists, they should go clean up the Darien Gap. Go clean it up because they're full of crap. Again, the left pushes narratives without solutions, and they smear and demonize people to win elections without any solutions.
Yeah, so, I think that narrative that you were just saying needs to be in the bigger picture there, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about immigration, there's a difference between a migrant and an immigrant, right? And there's a difference between legal and illegal. And so if we're talking about migrants and immigrants, we're talking about the difference between you're coming here for migratory work, right? Which could be me going to Japan and doing a job for a company, right? Or if we're talking about an immigrant, we're talking about someone who's assimilating to that country to be part of the country, right? And then the legal status of that, the United States has 36 million legal immigrants in it. We are carrying almost 1/4 of the world's legal immigrant population. So anybody who comes up with this narrative and says that we are not the kindest country, we're not a country of immigrants, we're not kind to immigrants, that is complete false, right? We
Yep.
have people who waited 3 years in refugee camps in Turkey to get in here the legal way, and they're here and they're happy to be here and be an American from whatever place they came from.
And
So
they don't want to see what's going on. My husband is an immigrant who came here legally on a work visa. And yeah, we had to go through a process after we got married. He took his time and he did it right. There are ways for people to come work here legally, but everybody that comes here, we need background checks. We need to know who people are. We can't just have people cross the border. God knows how many gotaways are in our country right now. And they did find a Iranian terrorist cell in the San Fernando Valley. So yes, we are at risk at being hit. And when we are, I don't want to hear the narrative that, oh, this is Trump's fault, because it's your fault, leftist.
exactly, it is. We need to fix it. And so, and we need to know who's in our country. Every single person needs to be documented, right? So whatever policy is going to come across to reform some of these gray areas, it needs to have where every single person that we know is in our country. We have to know every single person. They need to have a tax ID number if they're working. All these things need to be documented. Just like, again, if you go over to Japan and you overstay your visa by 1 day, the authorities are going to come get you and they're going to tell you have 14 days to evacuate the country. And if you don't, then you're going to be forcibly removed, right? Every other country follows their immigration laws and knows who's inside their borders, except for us.
Well, and this is funny. I had a couple, and they're from Ventura. They actually got married, and they went on their honeymoon to Costa Rica. They get off the plane. She forgot her passport. Guess who didn't get let into Costa Rica? I don't think that there's a country in this world that just, although London looks like it has fallen, I mean, it's not even London anymore. When we have people come into our country that have no intention on assimilating to our way of life and know nothing about our culture and know nothing about our history, and don't have respect for our history, while we have left-wing groups altering our historical documentation and teaching our kids to hate America, this is a recipe for disaster.
I agree. And why is our congressman supporting it? Because he came across the country illegally, right?
Oh, did he? Tell me about this.
So he says that he came under the Bracero program, and he says that he had a green card, which has Spanish writing on it. There's a lot of people who have done some investigation on this. It looks like that he got his citizenship by being in the Marine Reserves 20 years later. It would be great if someone did an investigation on it, but I think that, I don't like to get into the whole dirt mudslinging game with, politics or whatever, but I think if you are making decisions on things like immigration policy and you are extremely impacted by that in your life, I think we should know what that background is, right? Personally.
Right. Right, I do too. We want people that are going to contribute and love our country. I don't think everybody that comes in needs to be a billionaire or whatever. I think that there's jobs for everybody, but I also think these employers need to be held accountable for doing things the right way, because they are putting people at risk. Just the whole thing's a mess. Tell me about how your campaign's going, your path in this race.
It's going. I'm extremely busy every single night. So the 24th district crosses 3 counties, right, from Ventura. It has Ventura City and Ojai all the way to Morro Bay and Santa Margarita and San Luis Obispo and all of Santa Barbara County. So 3 counties, a lot of land to cover. I've been driving that almost every single night to different events and everything. It's going. I'm starting to get traction now. Obviously, I didn't have name recognition just coming out of the military and retiring a few months ago. So I had to start getting that going and getting over it. But I think I'm starting to get traction now. It's moving along.
Okay, well, we're pretty much out of time. So why don't you let everybody know what you need? What is your website? How can people volunteer their time? How can people donate to your campaign? And where can they find you on social media?
My website is bobsmithforcongress.com. You can get on there. All my links to all my socials are on there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X. I've posted a bunch of stuff on there. And right now, the biggest thing in any campaign is funding. So I need to get the donations going. And obviously, I'm grassrooting this. So every donation matters. $20, $10, it all adds up. Salute Carball has $3.5 million in his campaign funds right now.
Gee, I wonder where he got that. I wonder where he got that money.
Yeah, it's a lot. And
well, they're funded by NGOs.
I've got to go against that DNC, slush fund machine here. So that's the biggest thing for me right now is just getting the funding going so we can get all the things in place that we need to put up a good fight against them.
Okay, give everybody your website so they can donate to your campaign.
It's www.bobsmithforcongress.com.
Okay, and where can people find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook and I'm on X, so you'll find those links on my website.
Okay, do you have any last words for our viewers?
That's it. Hey, I'm happy to be on here. Thank you for having me today, Lori. My last thing would be, I realize I'm in a D+11 district. I've got to reach across the aisle. I think I'm a good candidate to do that. Serving in the military, you work with people from all walks of life. So I'm able to do that and reach across to everybody. Focus on our common ground issues. My campaign slogan is common sense, common ground. So I'll focus on those issues. There are numbers here and a way to win, but we need everybody to turn out. We need everybody to be a part of the campaign and getting there. And that's not just going to help me. That's going to help all of our down ballot candidates, and that's going to help our governor race as well.
And you guys, make sure that you share this video. We will be putting out some clips as well, so make sure you share those. Let's get eyes on this race. I don't believe that you're down 11. I hate to say it. I think there's a lot of gerrymandering going on. I think Newsom's in a bit of a panic right now, trying to have an emergency election this November to redistrict us again. Things must not be looking well in their favor. And you guys remember, a lie can't stand in the light of truth. Speak the truth boldly. Do not be shy. And let's get behind this man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay, everybody, stay tuned. Our next guest, dear friend of mine, Kristina Irwin, running for State Senate, District 24. If you guys had a house in the Palisades, Kristina needs to get in there. Okay, everybody, stay tuned.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com and use promo code CALI. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is a dear friend of mine, and when I ran for the state assembly, we ran together. She was a state senate candidate. I was state assembly, and then Lucy Volotsky also was running for the state senate, and all of our districts kind of crossed over. And we were kind of known as the Charlie's Angels of the Republican Party. Well, those were really good days. Well, Kristina is jumping in again. Understand, the Pacific Palisades burnt to the ground. I actually ran on this issue in 2022. And Kristina, she's not backing down. I want to welcome her to the show. Kristina Irwin, welcome to Uncover California.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. One of my best friends. I'm so honored, seriously, to be on the show. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, girl, I was telling everybody earlier how you and I had run together in 2022, and we had the little Rick's Angels that was Charlie's Angels going on, and it was so much fun campaigning with you and getting to know you, and we really did become good friends. Back in those days, I and even you ran on this fire danger. I had Paul Grisanti's endorsement saying, why aren't we doing controlled burns anymore? Why aren't we doing water storage? And they ignored it, and the Palisades is gone. Tell me about your heart and your thoughts, because your kids grew up around there. That is your community. Tell me what's going on in the Palisades.
It's a dumpster fire, literally and figuratively. I mean, what's been going on is crazy. My kids' school burned down, Pali High, as you know. So now they're at Pali South, which is the old Sears building, where it's in Santa Monica, which I grew up in, and it was safe at that time. Not anymore. Right across the street is the Sears building. Right across the street is the metro station. And we all know about what happens on the metro station. So that's horrible. Hopefully the school is going to be opening back up in the spring. So we're hoping for that. But I mean, there was a preschool, the Methodist Presbyterian Church, that preschool my daughter went to when she was younger, the Palisades Recreation Park, where she played tennis. She still does, but over in Westwood. They've rebuilt a few of the courts, but the houses behind that completely burned. The fields burned. The park burned. A lot of my friends, I can't even name how many, lost their homes.
Julia lost her home. Beautiful home in the Palisades.
Yeah. Then she's rebuilding from scratch.
Yeah, and the cost of building now is just insane. And I don't think a lot of the insurance is going to cover it. It's just crazy. So there's a lot of people. Something that I find kind of concerning as well, it seems that the state legislature has tried to do a land grab in the Palisades. Do you want to talk about that? I've been watching Spencer Pratt, who God knew that a reality star would come out of the woodworks and wake up to Democrats really suck. You did a press conference with Steve Hilton not too long ago.
Yes.
Let's roll that real quick.
I'd now like to welcome Kristina Irwin, who is a candidate for state senate right here in Pacific Palisades.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristina Irwin. Kristina with the K, last name Irwin, IRWIN, Win. So Win with Irwin. I'm running as your next state senator in District 24, which Pacific Palisades and Malibu is part of. I'm honored and humbled to be with you guys here today. So again, thank you for having me. The devastation that I see here before me, around me, behind me, is so heartbreaking. As a member of the community, I'm deeply saddened to see that the Methodist Church preschool that my daughter attended many years ago is completely gone, completely destroyed. I drove by yesterday and I also saw that the tennis courts where she used to play in the recreation center is completely gone and destroyed. And that's heartbreaking. The many local hangouts, part of this used to be a yogurt shop. The many local hangouts and small businesses that not just my kids, but a lot of the local kids here would come after school and they would support these businesses. They are no longer here, they are gone. Many of my kids' friends lost their homes, and many of my dear close friends, some of who are here today, have lost their homes and their personal belongings as well. As a member of this community, and with children attending Palisades Charter High School and being on the board of trustees of that high school, I'm confident that we as a community can rise and rebuild together. Together we will stand side by side, drawing on each other's courage, faith, and strength. And we will overcome and we will rise. Pali will rise once again. My name is Kristina Irwin and I'm here for you. And as your next state senator, I'm here for all of us. Thank you.
What do you think about everything that's going on? Spencer Pratt, the water issues, and Ben Allen. How much failure has this man done to this community?
Where do I begin? Okay, let's go from backwards to forward with your first question. So from your last question, Ben Allen, his biggest accomplishment, as we all know, is banning plastic straws. Yay. So that's already a failure. He's in basically what's known as the Santa Monica cabal. So he's in cahoots with the developers. And that tells you, going back to the second part of your question, what's happening with the building, the slow, completely turtle process of the red tape and the permits, and how Karen Bass saying one thing, gaslighting us on the other end. It's like, wait a minute. Then here comes Ben Allen. Thankfully, he's termed out in 2026. I'm the only Republican running against 11 Democrats, and many are self-proclaimed socialists, as we all know. I'm interested to see who Ben Allen will be supporting. That I'm dying to see. Back to him, and he passed this, or he tried to pass SB 549, as you're aware, which again is just like Maui 2.0, a land grab. And the residents spoke up. I went, on Twitter or whatever it's called, X, and I said, this is ridiculous. You can't do something like this. This is a land grab. The Palisadians, they don't want this. And he came out and he said, okay, it is paused for now. Well, guess what? When I'm elected to the state senate in the legislature, the bill will be dead. There is no pausing. There is no resurrecting. It is dead. And we all know why he's pausing it, Lori. His best friend is Senator Scott Wiener, who devised that horrible bill, SB 79, which is also a land grab. Go figure. Yeah.
These guys are crazy. And you guys all know who Wiener is. If you've been watching this show long enough, he is, bottom line, the biggest danger, I would say, to children in this entire state.
Absolutely.
Mr. Let's give our kids sex changes and let's pedophilia reign. So to hear that Ben Allen was his best friend is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So Kristina, what made you want to do this again? What made you want to run for the state senate again?
Well, good question. Partially because of the fires. My kids' school burned down. My friends' homes burned down. The recreation center, the church school my daughter went to, like I said, everything. It seems like when I ran in 2022, it was on the basis of freedom of religion, my body, my choice, but the conservative view, no, where it's like, don't mandate vaccines and don't do this and don't do that. It should be limited government. And you and I both ran on similar platforms when it
Except
came to,
I did run on fire prevention and water
yes,
storage, and they
yes.
ignored it. They failed miserably.
Oh,
And I'm
that
like,
was on purpose.
yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It seems like now I have to run again. I literally feel like it's my duty to run again, having said that my kids' school burned down, but also other things that are happening that like you said, so many insane things are just trying to be passed through the state legislature, and Gavin Newsom, wanting to write this check or asking for money for 100, and what is it? Well, first I heard it was 100 million. That then yesterday I was actually talking to someone and they said it was 800 million for the land grab. Yeah, for Palisades to be building multifamily housing, high density units, no parking, all that beautiful thing, everything. So that's why I decided to run and put a stop to this. I'm a common sense candidate.
Okay, so your district encompasses much more than just the Palisades.
Oh, yes,
As
much,
we
much.
were as we were talking about before, I was born in Santa Monica. You grew up there. It used to be a tourist attraction. It used to
Yeah.
be a clean, pristine area. I remember photographers going down there. And now you drive through that city, it's vacant businesses, it's the homeless, it's drug addicts, and the state legislature's resolution to that problem was crack pipes and injection sites, to the point now kids can't even play in the park. So let's talk about Santa Monica a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I grew up in Santa Monica. My parents immigrated here from a second world country, sorry, Serbia. It unfortunately saw communism and socialism, and the stories that they tell me is just horrific, where you can't do certain things and you have to abide by what the government tells you, or else it's not just a slap on the wrist, you'll go to jail. And I literally remember being at Santa Monica High School, and with my friends, we would go down that bridge and we would go to 3rd Street, and I would stay there till like 9 or 10 and call my parents. And street performers, maybe you see one homeless. Now, my kids, because they again go to Pally South, which is the old Sears building, they want to go to 3rd Street, and I have to adamantly say no. And the last time we were there was about, I'm not even kidding, 3 years ago. And I parked my car at the meters, and there was a homeless coming around, and he was trying to basically come at my youngest child and say, I don't know, he was grunting, but it was really scary. And me and the kids had to run in the other direction due to the failed policies of the far left, such as the elected officials, Ben Allen, and the city council in Santa Monica. You know about their open beverage alcoholic containers now? They're trying to get that to be a tourist attraction, to have it like Europe. Yeah.
Wow. So we got alcoholics, heroin addicts,
Yep.
and just zombie land. It's going to end up like San
Right.
Francisco, that used to be a beautiful city that honestly, I won't even set foot in that city anymore. Kind of like New York City. They are destroying everything they touch. Tell everybody about which cities your Senate district represents and your goal, what you want to do, and how you want to serve the constituents of these cities.
So it goes from Agoura Hills, Malibu, Calabasas, inland, Hidden Hills also. It goes inland to the beach cities, all of South Bay, to Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Venice, Santa Monica, Palisades, Bay, and then it goes all the way down to Torrance, Topanga. I did that wrong. And then and then it goes to Palos Verdes, Rancho Palos Verdes. It's huge, and they all have different issues. They
Right.
all do. So, what I want to do is I want to have town halls that are basically open for people to come and communicate their issues. I've been going to certain areas, like maybe Agoura Hills has slightly different issues than maybe you should say Beverly Hills, but they all want to have somebody that represents them in terms of safety, lower crime, no homelessness, less homelessness, and I would like on my campaign trail before, I'm talking about making a vast change, because this is not, as you know, Lori, Republicans versus Democrats. This is now the insane versus the sane. That's where we are.
I say good versus evil.
That's it. Good versus evil too. And I'd like to bring affordability back. I'd like to lower taxes, do something with the homeless, conservatorship. The liberals don't want to talk about that, but it is what it is. We need to set up some kind of maybe we can change the name, but some kind of institutions or asylums or wellness asylums, if you want to go there in terms of vocabulary, but somewhere where there's a triage where they can go for their treatments, for their mental illnesses, drug addictions. But also, I was thinking of having vouchers where they actually go to work, whether being an apprentice to a plumber or a mechanic or whatever it is, getting some credits for that, slowly reintegrating back into society. Also having a pet shelter. A lot of these homeless people have pets, and nobody's talking about the pets from the wildfires, which really just, I mean, as a dog person, I have chills right now. Like, what's happening to the pets? We got to take care of the pets, the foster kids, the homeless, our vets. And I want to make changes to all those.
People don't talk about the pet. I keep taking them in. I've got 5 dogs now. I love them each and every one of them. These animals are just kind of pushed to the side and euthanized, and that is super sad. Now, in your district also, isn't Rancho Palos Verdes, and correct me if I'm wrong, the area where there were the homes that were having the landslide? Tell us about that. Is there anything you could do in the state legislature to help these people? Because I'm sorry, when land moves,
it's horrible.
There's not a lot you can do to stop it, but these people are losing everything. What could you do in the state legislature to help these people?
Well, I definitely look forward to working with the city officials and anyone else that's willing to listen. I've heard these constituents and I've seen the pain that they have. And like you said, at being real estate agents, we know this is a big deal, not just in terms of reselling and marketing, but also where are they going to live? And then you have to do the geological surveys and all this and the soil reports. And these people just want to be heard and they want to change. So I'm willing to work with whoever is going to work with me on that level to do what the people need me to do.
A lot of problems that we have is this unelected bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I think it's a big problem with the homeless and everything that we've seen, because you've got people that are making 6-7-figure salaries on the problem, on the homeless problem. I almost think that the whole area, the whole state needs to be doged. Like, we need a deep dive into where this money's going, because I think that they've been laundering money in this state for a very long time.
100%. And I would love to get with Elon or whoever else will listen and Bill Asaley, prove that point. And it's funny, you should mention, just this morning, I kid you not, I put on my Doge California t-shirt and I was going to wear it to the interview, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to dress appropriately. Yes, I 100% agree, because it's the homeless industrial complex and it's a money laundering scheme, as we've all seen. And the money just keeps going towards the homeless and the taxes and the ULA and the HHH. It's like, how many? We keep getting taxed, but there are no results.
Right.
It's like the bullet train to nowhere.
Right. And then they also did, I believe they bought condominiums at about $800,000 a unit for the homeless. And let's face it, people that are drug addicted, they don't want to live inside a house where there's rules. If you were to do some sort of program where these people could get help, like I say, get help or go to jail. I hate to say it, we're saving your lives. Tough love needs to happen. What kind of ordinances in the state legislature could you do, because the cities are going to push back, they're making money on this, to make it basically illegal for people to be vagrants on the streets of Santa Monica and Malibu and just everywhere?
Well, it's interesting. When I drove through Pasadena a few weeks ago, I didn't see one homeless. Beverly Hills, I didn't see one homeless. And then you come to Santa Monica, and like you said, it's a zombie land. They're everywhere. So it makes you think, okay, wait a minute. It can be resolved, but yet certain cities don't want to resolve it. So therein lies the problem. We do have rules, we have laws on the books, but like you said, Lori, our city officials don't want to follow it because it's money.
The sheriff right now is Luna, correct?
Yeah.
He needs to enforce the law. I thought no one was above the law, but it seems that if you're here illegally, you're above the law. If you're a city council member, it seems that you creating policies to obstruct federal law, you're above the law. It's crazy to me that we have people in office locally that seem to think that they have more power than the federal government. What are your thoughts on that?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Like when Karen Bass was caught, giving aid to the illegal immigrants or the migrants, and completely. And I mean, I went on social media and I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I was watching that she was saying. It's unreal. Federal law, we all know if we have half a brain cell, federal law supersedes state law, and she is obstructing justice, and she needs to be held accountable for that. Why was she in Ghana? Again, back to the fires. I cannot believe these people are still walking amongst us. Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, they need to resign. California needs to be doged. There's so much work ahead of us, Lori. So much work.
Well, Gavin Newsom's terming out. We know that.
Yes.
So that's good news. At the same time, we do have a few things coming up where the people can actually do something, but they have to get involved. The voter ID initiative is huge because from my understanding, the Democrats are currently scrambling, probably because a lot of their voters are being deported.
Yeah.
And they're trying to scramble and redistrict again because they must be seeing something that we are not seeing, whether, this district's in trouble or this district's in trouble. But this voter ID initiative that Carl DeMaio put forward is going to change the California Constitution. It will put voter ID on the ballot, but we have to get 1 million signatures to get this on the ballot. So I do want to tell the audience, make sure you go to voteridinitiative.org and sign up now, because when those petitions hit, we have 180 days, I believe, to get 1 million signatures, and it will be a game changer for this state.
Absolutely. No more stolen elections. No more, oh, look, it's 12 midnight. Let's close the voting booths and let's go count all the votes that we have. Oh, wait, we need some more from this FedEx truck. I mean, it's insane.
Well, and they're trying to extend it. They're trying to extend it further now that not only do they have a month to count the ballots, they have an extra 7 days. So 5 weeks. This is all unnecessary. We need to go back to counting at the precinct that you voted at. If you go into a church and you vote, those votes should be counted there, not sent to the county to be counted there. If all these different locations where people vote are counted at those locations, then we don't have to worry about, we've already got numbers and the county can verify the numbers. And if those numbers are far off, guess what? Houston, we've got a problem. They make it so easy for things to fall through the crack. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you can't be too hard on them, Lori. I mean, California, half the kids here can't read and write. I mean, this is why they're extending it, because the people that we have in power forgot how to count. We're doing Common Core math. That makes no sense. I mean, my husband's a PhD and he's like, wait, what? So, I mean, just playing devil's advocate, it's funny because it's like they're saying that, oh, California is so wonderful, and we have kids here, they can read and write, but yet they're trying to extend this. So how can you really blame them? Because they don't know how to count.
Well, and what I've seen coming out of our schools we have the worst scores in the nation. What we're turning out are activists, DEI products of just chaos. And being a mom, this was originally your passion that got you to run in the first place. Are you seeing any changes in what's happening with the children? Are there still things that you want to work on in the state Senate to change how our kids are treated in the schools? I know already they're ignoring federal law and the executive order to get rid of DEI. What is your take?
Title IX.
Yeah.
Title IX.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for revamping, redoing. Let's roll out a new Department of Education, because honestly, it hasn't been working. And as you know, this has been a supermajority stronghold, this state, for about 16, 17 years.
Right.
It's not working. It's time to vote differently. It's time to vote and think about transparency, common sense, the future. And I would love to just completely dismantle the Department of Education and then put it back together piece by piece. My plans that I have are huge. And, being a mom, like you said, of 3 kids, wow, the first time I saw during COVID what they were learning on this app, Schoology brain pop was about Dr. Fauci. Don't listen to your parents. Do what I tell you to do. Oh yeah, the socialism starts early in indoctrination camps. And they were talking about, how it's really bad. You should be ashamed to be white. And they were talking about gender ideology. And this is exactly, Lori, why I was like, what is going on in my kids' school? And at that time, they were in 2nd, 5th, and 7th grade. That's how young they were. Yeah.
And we all know that the whole Fauci thing, if not for COVID, it was the one blessing out of COVID that we got to see what they were teaching our children. We may have never known. So God works everything together for good. I truly believe that.
Yep.
So, Kristina, we're out of time. Let everybody know where they can find you, what your website is. Oh, and I do want to bring up, and we'll put it up, I'm going to be doing a fundraiser with Kristina very soon. Tell everybody about the details of that.
Okay.
And then also where they can find you on social media, where they can donate to your campaign.
Okay, so I have a lot of social media. I don't have it all memorized, but if you go to my website, KristinaIrwin.com, Kristina, Irwin, IRWIN.com, you'll see the social media widgets at the bottom, or just go on to all of them and you'll see me. Yes, Lori, we're going to do a great event, and thank you for being one of the guest speakers. I'm very excited and looking forward to it, along with Senator Tony Strickland. It's going to be at a private residence in Hermosa Beach from 6:30 to 8:30, September 20th. Cocktails, conversation, catered event. It's going to be really nice. We're going to be talking about SB 9. That's something that people in the South Bay, we didn't get a chance to talk about that, are actively fighting in Torrance. They're fighting it obviously here in Palisades. So that's going to be one of the topics, again, with education, my vision for reforming that, and a bunch of other good stuff.
That's great. And for those of you, SB 9 was passed a while back, what it is, and President Trump actually said it his first term, they're trying to urbanize suburbia, and they're doing infill. You guys, California is huge. We have so much land that we could develop and make housing. They're doing it for the vote. They want low-income housing in every community because they usually vote the D. So let's not kid ourselves. There is a specific political reason SB 9 passed, and it's going to change our communities for the worse. If I wanted to live in the city, I'd go live in the city.
Right.
I want suburbia.
Right.
I want open beaches. I don't want congestion. If I did, I'd go live in downtown LA. I don't want to live in downtown LA. So
right, exactly. And that should be our choice.
Yes.
That should be our choice, but they're making it not our choice. It's a complete, like you said, they're doing it on purpose.
We're being ruled, not represented, folks. So if you don't want to be ruled and you want to be represented, vote and support Kristina Irwin for State Senate District 24. And Kristina, I love you a lot, and I will see you soon. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you to your audience. Bye. Have a good one.
Guys. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We will be dark for the next couple weeks. I've got a couple fairs going on and a couple appearances that I've been booked for. So we're going to go dark for a couple weeks, but we will be back. Make sure to push out my documentary on the illegal immigration system. I'm at Uncover Cali on Rumble, Uncover California on YouTube, and follow me on X at Lori Mills, the number 4 CA42. We'll see you soon. Stay safe and get activated. If you enjoyed this video, remember to follow me on X at Lori Mills, the number 4 CA42, Uncover Cali on Rumble, and Uncover California on YouTube. California.